How's it going, everybody? This is Seer here, and today we have the part 2 video titled Chapters and how that's going to kind of be affected by this new age of Marvel Strike Force. Now, yesterday we had a blog post, and there was a section on here for New Age Marvel Strike Force story and characters unlocked. Now, there were a few interesting things that were mentioned on here, so I'm going to read this portion first, then we'll go ahead and check out the video. So we're bringing back the dynamic and roster guiding storytelling that you saw with these Age of Apocalypse, but we're nixing the requirement of building identical teams to acquire the mythic character. So basically, with the Age of Apocalypse, the storyline was great on there. The issue was having to build characters in the full team and forcing everybody to have that same roster. So they're getting rid of that portion, so we don't have to build characters like Phantom X, Scarlet Witch, and Dazzler, stuff like that. So during the Age of Annihilus, commanders will unlock 3 powerful legendary characters who will all combine their abilities with Annihilus to form a legendary squad. So it's going to be a 4-man squad by the time it's all said and done, which is very interesting how that's going to end up happening. So be on the lookout for more information on this upcoming team and what mode to best utilize them in. Unleashing your roster in battle is what it's all about in Marvel Strike Force, and engaging with the game will also be a way for you to acquire these legendary character shards. So it's going to be shard system, and it looks like by the end of it, we're going to get all those characters up to 7 yellows, which is pretty interesting. I'm really curious how this is going to end up working, if they're going to keep that Scourge and Trial system and kind of maybe top you out as far as how many shards you can get on that. So let's go ahead, check out this video, and see what they say about that.
Greetings, Commanders. My name is Pathfinder, and today we're back with Episode 2 of the Strike Spot miniseries, A New Age in Marvel Strike Force. If you haven't already, go back and watch Episode 1 so you're all caught up. There will be one more video tomorrow and a Twitch stream on Friday where we're going to answer all of the questions you might have, so make sure to join our Discord, Reddit, or Facebook pages to leave your questions so we can answer all of them live on Twitch on Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific. Let's go ahead and dive into the interview where we talk about the chapter structure. All right, and we are back with episode 2 in the Strike Spot miniseries, A New Age in MSF. As you can see, RJ and I are still here, still in the same clothes we were yesterday because the same interview. But in the first section, we talked about the New Age, things to come. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about chapters, about kind of how the age is actually going to work. So let's just dive right in. What is an age? How long does it last? What's the structure of this?
And I don't know, maybe this is a different interview, different day, you know what I mean? We're just wearing the same clothes. People don't know that, right? We could pretend and say, hey, we just wear the same thing for like a week long. This new age is going to be a year-long arc, so very similar to kind of the previous ages that we've had in the past. The one major difference and the overall kind of way we're going to run or operate this one is we're starting to really use the chapter system. And a chapter will be 3 months long. And inside of the chapter, you will be earning shards of a legendary character only through engagement. And
That's kind of what they talked about on the blog right there that we kind of looked at. Here you can see it's 3 months, so it's 4 quarters basically. And the very last portion is where we get Annihilus. So since we're starting the new age, kind of Professor X is wrapping up because he comes out in about a week or under. So that means the Age of Annihilus is going to start, which means we're leading right into this first legendary character right away. So that's pretty interesting.
it's very similar to kind of what we've been doing with Lilandra. We've been learning a lot from what we've been doing with her, but really it's going to be broken up into 3 chapters, and then the conclusion of the age, which will be kind of Annihilus's chapter. So really still 4 chapters, but 3 legendary characters that will be coming out within each of those chapters.
Okay. So you talk about the legendary characters, earning those through engagement. How are we going to power up that character throughout the month? I mean, what kind of events are we going to have? What are we looking at as far as timeline structure of that?
Yeah, so events will be very similar to kind of what we're doing right now with the command center and kind of global milestones in terms of making sure that what we call the core loop, so basically the month-long kind of meta events that we're running, are always first and foremost right in front of your face. You know what you should be doing, but we're going to be slowly dripping out shards of this legendary character. So think of 810 plus shards that for the next 3 months will be given out through engagement, and that is how you will power up or get your yellow stars for these legendary characters. Same thing with kind of what we're thinking about doing with the red stars is very similar to the scourges that we've run in the past. But
Okay.
those being the primary way that you're going to earn red stars for these legendary.
So we basically get the character for free through the command center portion, and then the scourges is where we get the red stars for them. We still get the scourges, which is the fun thing that I like about it. The scourges are awesome when they're done right, because there's been a few flops for the scourges. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I'm a little torn. Hopefully there's going to be more valuable rewards in the Scourge system than just the red stars. I'm a little iffy. I don't know. We'll see.
Characters. So think of maybe in month 1 of chapter 1, you're earning some amount of the red stars. And then in month 2, we're running another scourge, and you're going to probably power them up some more. And then by month 3, you're running a scourge, the last scourge of that chapter, and then you could fully power up that legendary character. So based off of the player's engagement will determine how many yellow stars and red stars you're walking away with within that chapter.
Okay, very cool. So tons of engagement throughout the month revolving around a legendary character. I assume we're going to have, some teams that you're going to need as a part of that whole system, and maybe those are the ones that we earn throughout the chapter. Is there anything you can tell us about that at all?
Yeah, I think we're going to go pretty in depth in one of these upcoming videos around just kind of the seasonal kind of shop, some of the differences there and what's going to go into those shops. But yeah, I would say
Seasonal shops. There we go. That's the shops that they kind of hinted at yesterday as well. So seasonal shops, which is going to be kind of like those chapters, it sounds like, probably about 3 months long.
The teams within the month are still gonna have some play in this age and kind of determining the success of kind of the players moving forward. But I would say the big difference is that we want to make sure that the content that players are able to go into is very player friendly in terms of no paywalling content, making sure that everything's really accessible. But it will be up to players to have the kind of choice around who are you powering up within this chapter. It's going to be more or less based on what your preferences are, but there will be a lot more kind of flexibility in some of the content that we're running throughout those chapters.
One thing that, at least for myself, of the old age, right, the age of Apocalypse was, throughout the whole thing you were leveling up a team for a legendary character, and then at the end it didn't really quite fit together where all the legendaries worked with Apocalypse. Are we going to have any differences regarding that? Like, are the legendaries going to have their own team? How's some of that going?
Yeah, I think we always learn from, what we've done in the past, right? And so I would say with Age of Apocalypse, yeah, you're spot on. I'm a big Apocalypse fan. I was super excited when I just joined this team and kind of heard, oh, we're doing the Age of Apocalypse. And I was like, oh, the Horsemen, we're going to build them up, and then they're all going to come together and they're going to be this kind of uber team, right? I was kind of like, nope, that's not really what our plans are. I think here we're going to take a different stance where we are going to make sure that at the end of this age, you are going to have an Annihilus team that is basically consisting of all of these legendaries plus a couple others that will form a great team in the end of this age. And also, I would say when we look back at kind of the way
Plus a couple others. Hang on.
make sure that at the end of this age, you are going to have an Annihilus team that is basically consisting of all of these legendaries plus a couple others.
So who's the fifth character then? We got the 3 legendaries, we got Annihilus, and then who's the other one? Okay. I'm curious.
that will form a great team in the end of this age. And also, I would say when we look back at kind of the way that, Old Man Logan or our Shadow King or some of these older Scourge events have run, we've learned some of the mistakes that maybe the community wasn't really excited about, or some of the things we could have done differently. And so I think that's also our learnings that we're going to pull forward and kind of making sure that everything that we're doing within these chapters that leads to the conclusion of this age, everyone is really excited about.
Well,
Yeah, so for the scourges, I definitely brought up how with Old Man Logan and Shadow King, it's thrown every single pack, do your run, and that's really it. Because there were no negative packs that were really on there. All of those basically helped you out, except for like the health packs, of course. So something I kind of brought up before was, hey, for these like open Cosmic Crucible rules, make it to where that actually cost you points. It makes it, instead of gaining you Scourge or pack points, you end up losing those points. I think that would make it a lot more interesting, and you have to really determine which packs you want to use as opposed to throwing them all on and then doing your run, because there were no negatives to actually doing that because everything helped you out. So I'm curious if they're going to kind of learn from that and make it to where it's not all packs are beneficial to you. Throw some of those negative ones back in like we had from the Horseman days.
a big question, for me is what happens if, say I'm a new player and I join in month 2 or maybe even month 3. Like what can I still do, or how can I be able to power up these characters without missing a ton of time in that chapter?
Yeah, so we're still determining kind of the catch-up mechanic, quote unquote. We definitely know that we need to build that into the system, but we also want to reward players, right, for kind of being there from the start of the chapter all the way to the conclusion of the chapter. But we also know life happens, right? You may go on vacation, maybe you miss a few days. So we don't want to be as punishing as I would say sometimes games can be, in terms of you miss a few days here and there and you miss out on some of these shards. So we're going to build some catch-up mechanics even for the
That's
players
good.
who maybe miss out on some days inside of the chapter. But we do know that there will be a way that once a chapter concludes, you can kind of start to make back up those shards of that legendary character that maybe you missed out on. We want everyone to have these legendary characters as they're moving through or progressing through these chapters. So that is,
By the way, that is a huge, huge difference than Marvel Strike Force in the past 7 years. If you remember that first legendary with like Nick Fury, where you had to build those Kree minions, and they made it to where every legendary they were making money. It was kind of paywall to where if you want to get those legendaries the first time, you need to get like when I started the game or came back to the game, it was Doc Ock. So I had to get those X Force characters up and running so I could get them on the first release. Otherwise, it would be about 3 months or so before the second run happens for me to get the unlock. So this is a huge different way of doing legendaries, and it's not going to be money that they're going to be making off of this. So it's very interesting that they're taking this path.
something that we're taking, a deep look at. That is something that we're taking, a deep look into, and kind of how do we execute that. But we also know we want players to really fully engage inside of the chapter. So it's a delicate little balance that we're trying to strike right now, but that there will be a way for players to be able to catch up. Sometimes, Marvel Strike Force takes its own kind of turn, or goes a different direction that sometimes players are pretty excited about, and sometimes they're pretty vocal about on the choices that we make, within various teams that we're creating. So we are trying to, as closely as we can, tie to the narrative also that kind of a lot of the comic book fans may remember.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Those are silhouettes. So somebody with a jacket there. Who's that?
Also that kind
Spiky person? Is that Human Torch? Johnny Storm? That's Native Zone Johnny Storm, maybe?
of a lot of the comic book.
So it starts in April. That's this month. So yeah, we're getting that first legendary soon. I think that's Johnny Storm. I don't
fans
know
may
who the other two
remember
are.
around Annihilus, and of course we're going to take our own spin on it, but we also want this around Annihilus we
Sorry,
can
distracted.
tie to the narrative also that kind of a lot of the comic book fans may remember around Annihilus, and of course we're going to take our own spin on it, but we also want this to be in front of your face throughout this age. So really making sure that we're pushing, driving the immersion. It's always fun to see who players or the community think is going to come into the game or who they have strong opinions on. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to kind of the next couple legendary characters to see how the community reacts.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to conclude our second mini series episode in the new age of MSF. So, like we did in the first one, want to tease a little bit about what we're going to cover tomorrow?
I think one of the major teases will probably be in the same clothes again, right? That might happen.
For
Uh,
sure. That will for sure happen.
yeah, I think for this next one, we're going to talk a lot about shops. We know for a long time we've been hearing from the community around our shops, lack there of value from the players and kind of the player standpoint around us needing to do a pretty big refresh to those shops. With the start of this new age, you are going to be getting a massive refresh of the shops.
Awesome.
Well, stay tuned for that, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. We got to see silhouettes also, so let's try to
As
look at these
closely as
characters
we
again.
can tie to the narrative also that
So that person there looks like they have like a coat of some sort. We see kind of the collar portion sticking up. This one, the only one I can really think is like a Johnny Storm where he's flamed on type of thing, but that doesn't really show there. Maybe this is hair, not Johnny. Let me know who you guys think these three characters are. I'm very curious. Now, as far as these shops goes, if we end up going in game, you can definitely tell there's issues with the shops. So like right now we have the X Coin shop. I'm just buying the top row right here. This is probably the least eventful, I guess, event store that we've had, because usually you can get like gold, you can get training mats, you can get T4s. This is strictly for G20, which I'm honestly, that's what I'd be purchasing anyways, but I know not everybody's end game. And then for those people, they're kind of future proofing their roster by going for these G20s, if you want to call it that. In the gold store, I don't purchase anything in here, so I always skip this one. The start of the day, I just scroll down, I grab one of these, and then I kind of go on with my way. That unlocks the purchase three items for the supply store. That's the word. Blitz store, I just purchased the refills. I'm at about 600k right here. The raid, all I do is I go in here, I open the orbs. Looks like I have some abilities to open. That's all I do in this store. The arena, I purchased the training modules. That's it. I have about 300k arena credits. I skip these two because I don't need anything in there. I go over here. I look to see if there's any characters I want to end up purchasing. Now, right now, I do need Hercules shard, so I will go over here to the battle world, and I'm trying to get him up to max level. And that's really all I'm doing for this store. So I'm really curious on what changes they plan on making for the seasonal stores. Having it to where it's 3 months, I'm really curious about that. Hey, we just got this pop up. Just watch that. But yeah, the command center portion, going in here to get those shards for the unlock with the engagement. I think I'm okay with that portion. Making it to where we do the scourges for red stars, I think they need something more in there than just getting the red stars. Maybe adding in, like, if there's an event store like this, getting X coins on each of those runs. I'm really curious on how that's going to end up being done, and received. I do like how we'd have to do that 3 times. So basically, we have a Scourge event once a month. That's actually exciting for me because I love the Scourges, and the fact I'm actually getting something every time I do the Scourge, and we'll have new characters because of a new month going on. I do like that. So let me know what you guys think about the video. I'm still digesting it. I think I'm still excited. Having those 3 legendaries with the Nihilus is very cool. I'm curious who that 5th character is going to end up being because they said a couple characters. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. If you did enjoy this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of the day.